Okay, so now that we've covered, the topic of what digital adoption is and why it's important and some of the trends we're seeing in the industry, I want to talk a little bit about some of the steps that a company can take to effectively adopt and deploy software internally. So the first step is a little bit of a no-brainer. You have to introduce the system or software or tool and make sure that people are trained on how to use it. So that's generally always the first step when choosing to procure and implement a software. The next step is around the integration into existing workflows. So this really just means that you want to make sure that through people's existing job functions that might get use out of that software, you have a way to introduce and inject the software and its key features into those users' existing workflows. Some examples of how that might make sense for ShopLogix, and for some extra context, ShopLogix is a manufacturing software. We focus primarily around performance monitoring tools and shop floor engagement. So some examples of how you could integrate ShopLogix into existing workflows might be someone like an operator who's focused on trying to figure out their current performance as they're producing during their shift. So they could be using a ShopLogix dashboard at their operator station that will give them real-time performance around their success and overall effectiveness of their performance during that shift. Another example from an operator standpoint could be to have an actual operator's terminal station, like a computer, PC, or a tablet that's connected to ShopLogix, where they can actually have the ability to enter in key information like downtime reasons, comments, or scrap entry. So really feeding back critical information about real-time events from the shop floor. Another example could be someone who's maybe a corporate user who has an oversight over multiple different plants or processes across your organization. In this case, you might actually use our analytics portal offering, which is focused more around historical data and trend analysis. We're giving you full access to all of your production data that we collect from your machines. So these are just a few examples of how there are different roles in an organization who will have existing workflows and parts of their job that they perform. And when trying to maximize the deployment of a software, you want to make sure that you integrate the key features that make sense for that user into their existing workflow. So these two things kind of seem like a no-brainer. They're generally what any company is going to do when choosing to roll out a software. Now, this is also typically where we see companies will kind of stop in terms of their initiatives of rolling out a new system. So that's where the next few steps that I'll walk through I think are critical to help drive you to the next level to make sure that you're really getting the most out of the systems that you're implementing. And this is also where it kind of leads into some of the features that we've launched within ShopLogix in our analytics portal that help to empower our customers to drive that to the next level. So the first one is around measuring key feature adoption. So first, you obviously have to define what good adoption looks like and which key features you want to be adopting, and then be able to have some way to measure that or a KPI around that. So that's actually what we've launched within our ShopLogix analytics portal, is a set of KPIs that measure the adoption of some of our most fundamental core features of our product. So once you've been able to define what things you want to be able to measure, then and have a KPI in place to actually measure those, the next step is to actually have some set of accountability around that. So an example here could be if you're a plant manager, you might be responsible for the plant level adoption of these core features. Or if you're a line manager or a shift leader, you might be responsible for the adoption of your shift or line. And this is also where it's important actually to integrate these existing adoption KPIs and metrics into your regular daily management system in the same way that you would with some KPIs just around production and performance. And then the last thing, in terms of any kind of continuous improvement process, which is common in manufacturing, you always want to have that closed loop system. So you've defined what good adoption looks like, you have a way to measure it, you have people who are accountable for driving it, and then you want to actually be able to learn from that information and drive continuous improvement. So that learning really comes from being able to dive into these individual metrics and figure out what's driving them, identify core problems and drivers, and then be able to assign actions or plans around how you're going to improve that. So this is kind of typical in your manufacturing continuous improvement process. But the key takeaway here is that it's generally not enough to just make sure the software is integrated into your existing processes. And to really make sure you get the most out of your systems, you want to make sure you define and measure what good adoption looks like, have people accountable for driving that, and have that closed loop around continuous improvement.